How's the team feeling as a whole coming into the first round?
We're quite excited. It's the first round of having a women's national crit series, which is really, really good. It's a really big step forward for the sport, so we're all really excited for it.
And it's a brilliant season for having just more and more racing on the calendar.
Yeah, it's got, like, the calendar has really expanded this year, and it's really brilliant to see, and sort of starting to get parity with the men's, which is really good.
Thank you. Good luck today.
Thank
And firstly, what does it mean to you and the rest of the British peloton to have a brand new race series this year?
I think it's really exciting. I think we've never had it before, and I haven't ridden the national series for about 2 or 3 years, and so I think for the women who have been racing it for all these years, I think it's good to have a standalone one like the men, you know, equality and all that.
And we've seen a brilliant showing from you on the track lately. Does this, with that in mind, suit you quite well?
I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do today, because I've been focusing in the winter on the track, and then did the tour series last month. I had quite a few results, and I was happy with that, so see what I can do here.
What are you anticipating from the brand new circuit series?
It looks good today. It's a decent course. We haven't done it before. It's different from when they've run the Bristol GP in the past. Quite a long sort of straight bit, so could be for sort of the less technically able riders, but then not the technical part of it as well. It's really good to have a standalone series. It just gives kind of an extra element for those that are maybe not long road racers.
How well does today's course suit you? Have you sort of had a chance to have a good look at it?
I've had a little look round, but not at all the circuit, and I've had a few local people come up to me and tell me that it's technical, so as far as I know, I think it's up my street, but we'll see. You just never know with circuits like this at all how they ride, so it'd be good to find out when we get going.
But you're on fine form, feeling good coming into today?
I think so, yeah. But again, because of the field that we've got, it can throw up strange results, so it's always being aware of what's going on around you and keeping it upright.
And this year's racing across the board has been so close fought, hasn't it?
It has. It is. You've got the two girls that are sort of Anna and Jess that are definitely heads and shoulders. So it's trying to break through that at the minute. It is a shame that they're not here today, but there's going to be a fight or a battle today. It's going to be hard today anyway. So all racing's hard these days as well. It's good.
But looking forward to it with the team.
I am. Yeah, it's going to be good. Good for the team.
Thank you. Good luck today. Well, there's a brilliant atmosphere down here in Bristol, despite the weather. As you can see, the rain's coming down, but it really has been brilliant sunshine 1 minute, rain coming down the next. It's absolutely crazy here, but Rory Townsend spoke to me earlier today. Of course, they've had their race in the National Men's Series already this morning and saying it definitely wasn't the toughest part of the race. But chatting to some of the women ahead of today's Circuit Series round 1, it's just overwhelming to have such volume of racing in the UK now, and have to stand alone in this series is really, really crucial for the women. They're almost ready to start. We're waiting for some things to happen at the end of the men's race actually. Ian Bibby is just approaching that podium, but it looks like the women are on that start line now. So let's join the studio with James and Joe.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Joe, very
Hello.
nice to have you alongside me
Thank
today.
you for having
You've had a very
me.
busy week this week, have you not?
Yes, women's tour last week. So that was a brilliant week of racing. Really enjoyed commentating on that.
Yeah.
So really stepped up a level this year with the course and the climbs and everything. So yeah, it was brilliant.
It's brilliant to see, and today's a prime example of that, of having the first round of the Women's National Circuit Race Series. For years it's been mainly men having this, and women sometimes dropped in, but now a bona fide individual series for them. It's a good week for women's racing.
Definitely. So previously we've had the national series combining road racing and crit racing, and I think that's not really pleased everybody, because there are some real sort of specialist crit racers that really want a standalone series, and equally there's some specialist road racers that don't really enjoy crit racing, so they don't really want that in the same series. And obviously the men have had separate series for years, so now for the first time we've got a separate circuit series and a separate road series. So the road series has got quite a lot of rounds which we're in the middle of at the moment. We had the Cycle Classic last weekend and the Tour of the Reservoir next weekend, but this is the first of the circuit series, so definitely one for all the crit riders to really sort of get their teeth into.
And it's great just to see such an abundance of racing. I mean, Becca just spoke about it there. And you've just mentioned it also, that we're just getting so many races now. There's no longer big gaps within the year when you've got empty weekends and there's no racing on. But it's only got to be a good thing for women's racing. And I think the level of women's racing in the UK is just going up and up every single year.
Definitely, every year it gets better and better. So back when I was a junior and a sort of first year under 23 racing in the UK, I used to go off to Belgium on weekends because there wasn't enough racing here at home. But now multiple series. Obviously, the Tour series has expanded as well, which is brilliant, and there's just so much more opportunity. And it's those different length races, like I was saying, a combination of road racing and crit racing. So there's something to suit different types of riders as well.
And here we go, we are off, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first round of the HSBC British Cycling National Circuit Race Series here in Bristol. And you can see right away at the start, we spoke to her at the top of the show, Jo Tindley. She thinks she's going to be getting her teeth in about this today.
Yeah, so Jo Tindley had a good Tour series this year, and she was the silver medalist at the National Crit Champs last summer. So been around for ages, really experienced racer, really good technically. We saw some pictures there with the course, some varying road surfaces, and obviously with the heavy rain as well. It's not going to suit everybody. There'll definitely be riders that have been put off by that weather, but it will suit the girls that are good at bike handling and not sort of afraid of a bit of rain.
Yeah, I was the kind of person where if it rained, I was really happy because I knew half the people didn't want to be there.
Yes.
What, you kind of like that? Because I know you had
possibly not.
multiple Olympic champion on the velodrome and world
Yes.
champion.
Yeah.
Do you prefer being indoors?
When the weather's bad, yeah, I'd probably prefer being indoors.
I think most of us do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it depends what level you're racing at. When I was racing domestically and I was one of the stronger riders, if it was bad weather, again, I'd think, yes, this is good, because I knew that half of the peloton would be put off. When you go up a level to pro racing and you've got the best girls in the world, it's a little bit more off-putting. So I think the way to race this race is really to race it from the front, because crashes can happen and it can be quite difficult out
And
there.
you can just see the rain on the road surface there. It's an absolute deluge. But as you were saying there, Jo, as you can see there's the changes of surface in these city centre races are sometimes pivotal to actually what happens in the race, because you get changes of surface which can be really smooth tarmac to city centre paving stones to, it can be bus terraces, it can be oil on the road, it can be rubber off the tyres of the cars. It can be so treacherous out there, and you can see right now there's gaps appearing left, right and centre already, and they're not even halfway through the first lap yet.
Yeah, definitely. I almost used to think I preferred heavy rain like this from the start than weather where you weren't quite sure was it going to rain or not, because at least with this you can get your tyre pressure sorted before the start and you're racing in the rain. It was always awkward if you've got a day when the clouds are looming and you think, oh, is it going to rain, is it not going to rain, and you've got to make that call about what you're going to do. But here it is soaking wet. It's soaking wet for everyone. All the corners are going to be treacherous. But like you say, gaps already opening up. And I think on quite a tight circuit, it's a mile-long circuit, 1.6 kilometres. And I think the girls with the bigger teams that can race from the front here and probably string it out early on, we're going to see quite a lot of gaps developing.
So you did touch on there, and I've always been a big advocate of tyre pressure.
Yeah.
In conditions like that, tyre pressure can be the real difference between being upright and being on the ground.
Yes.
Nowadays we've got so much more technology. It's moving to tubeless tyres, clinchers. We've got so much options out there. On a day like today, what kind of pressure would you ride in your tyres?
Oh, that's a good question.
Coming from a track racer who's probably 200 PSI.
I'm used to having 220 in there, yeah, as hard as you can go. So definitely, probably under 100. Probably. I'd be looking at what everyone else is doing and asking the mechanics, and
walking around, checking everyone's tyres.
Yeah, definitely feeling everyone else's tyres, thinking what are they doing. But like I said, I would far prefer it to be heavy rain than it to be a bit damp. It's when it's a bit damp and the odd corner's a bit sketchy but the rest of it's okay, that's the absolute worst.
Yeah, you can see right here at the front, as we said at the top of the show, Jo Tindley from Campionese Velo Performance really wanting to set, she wants to take control of this event today and basically be on her terms. She's at the front, she's controlling the pace, she's controlling this group right now, which is absolutely thinning down into like little ones and twos behind them, but that seems to be the best place to be at the front, be safe, keep yourself out of trouble and pick your own lines.
Absolutely. So often we think in a peloton you want to be on a wheel, you want to be saving energy, recovering, you don't want to be in the front couple of riders. But actually on a circuit like this and in these conditions, it's easier at the front. You're not sprinting out the corners, you can pick your own line like you say, and it is getting strung out behind that, every place you are further back, you can already see little bike lengths developing here and there, riders just getting gapped, just having to sprint out those corners. But there's two riders there from Campionese Velo Performance on the front, currently just controlling things, and if they ride a few laps like this, suddenly they'll find themselves with a group of maybe 10 riders. They had a field of 43 riders starting, so they can thin that out really quickly just by riding hard for the first few laps.
And the thing is as well, we say only 43 riders, but on a 1 mile circuit it doesn't take long for the front of the race to see the back of the race, especially in conditions like this. So riders will be getting lapped pretty early on this circuit, even if it was dry.
Yeah.
But that's only going to exaggerate that situation, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't really get a bunch in a crit in the same way that you do in a road race, just because it is a different type of racing, and it is normally a string of riders like we're seeing here. I think we've got about 6 riders here now, just getting a bit of a gap over the next small group of riders. And this is the way crits can often go. If you just start hard and ride hard, suddenly what was a bunch has gone, and the more technical the circuit, the more broken up it will get, and the easier it is to ride at the front.
You can just see another big acceleration out of that corner there as we come in through the finishing line for another lap passing by, and you can see the little gaps appearing there. There's roughly 4 or 5 riders here at this front, and it looks like this is going to be potentially the start of the selection being made.
Yeah, definitely. So it depends how long these girls ride hard for. So we've got a race a day of an hour plus 5 laps, which is for women's crit racing in the UK on the longer side. Some of the races are more like sort of 40-45 minutes long, whereas if you go to somewhere like Holland, you consistently get crits that are 90 minutes or 60k long. So it's a sort of good sort of middle distance crit. It's definitely not one of the shorter ones, so you can ride hard early on knowing that it's not going to be a long day out. These girls are used to racing road races for 2-3 hours plus, so they can definitely cope with an hour's worth of racing.
Yeah, and it's really nice to get a real idea of the sort of terrain we've got to take on today. A lot of these, what they would call hot dog turns, real dead turns where you've got a hairpin back out, and I remember when I was racing, there's nothing worse than coming into a corner and looking across and seeing somebody sprinting flat out on the other side of the road. It's the most demoralising thing. But it's not a flat course this today. It's got a few little bumps in it, and I reckon that will get pretty grunty towards the last, the last quarter of the race.
Yeah, and that the little bumps will really sting as well. And like you say, with the hairpin turns, it is awful when you're coming into a bend like that and you're braking, like you say, and everyone else is accelerating out of it. So once again, it is far, far easier being every sort of place nearer the front you are, the better really, and every place further back you just playing catch up the whole time.
Another thing with this course as well, there's lots of white lines on the road as well, which if anyone's ridden a bike in the rain on a white line, they can be like absolute sheet ice. There's nothing worse than having to deal with that. But we're looking at some of the best criteria in circuit racers in the UK right now, and these ladies have got some handling skills on them. Yeah,
definitely. So we mentioned Jo Tinley. She's been racing since she was a teenager, very, very experienced, multiple sort of national medals on the road and circuit racing and track racing as well, so really skilled rider. Like you say, on this course we've got the white lines which are really slippery, we've got the drain covers which are also really slippery in the wet, and then a few different road surfaces as well, so some of the paving can be quite slippy. But like I said before, I do think if anything heavy rain is possibly slightly better than light rain, because damp can be even slippier sometimes.
Yeah, and also it kind of washes that top layer of the grease of the road as well. So sometimes, yeah, as you say, heavy rain's probably better. Maybe not for your morale, but yeah, definitely for the course conditions. But we can see right now there's 3 riders in the front here, sitting first, 4th and 5th, all from the same team from Campinese Velo Performance, and they came out today all guns firing.
Yeah, so I thought coming into this race they would probably be the strongest team. Like I say, Jo Tinley and Lizzie Bennett both up there in the Tour Series, so consistently racing crits in the UK, and they obviously know what they're doing. There's also been the Road Series as well, but certainly when it comes to crit racing, if you've got 2 or 3 strong riders that can get to the front and ride hard early on, suddenly you've got a break formed without anyone actually really attacking, just from riding hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that elastic slowly starts to stretch and stretch and stretch, and suddenly it goes, and there's not much you can do in a circuit like this, because there's not an awful lot of places where you can just go 5k an hour quicker and cross a gap. It's all about conserving that energy, putting yourself in a good place, and making sure you're in that little front bubble so you can react to the attacks, but not necessarily having to attack.
Yeah, so if you haven't made this front group now, it would be very hard to catch up, because like you say, there aren't any long straights where you can really sort of get your head down and power along. You've got to keep braking for the corners, and also a small group like this can get out of sight really quickly, and that psychologically is really hurts anybody trying to chase, because when you've got a carrot to chase, that's 100 times easier. When you can't see anybody that you're trying to chase, except for these moments like this where they're on the opposite side of the course, which is just a little bit demoralising anyway, it is far harder to chase. But currently these girls get themselves nice and organised, a few girls working at the front, a few girls sitting in, but that's fine, they don't need to do any work when there's a team with 3 riders there.
Yeah, I mean, we've got roughly 8 riders now in this front selection. Coming up, there's a rider from Story Racing at the back there as well. Just, are they getting tailed off, or are they getting back on? It's hard to tell in these kind of conditions, but the thing here is that there's actually a little bit of willing being shown by everyone else. It's not just going to be a Campinese Velo Performance takeover. There's all the other teams that Liv AWOL are really keen on getting into this. They want to push this gap and they want to build it as quickly as they can. They've got 2 riders in there as well.
Yes, there's 9 riders in total, and it is in all their interest to make this work, because that means they've all got a top 10 secured, with this being also the first event in the National Series, National Circuit Series. Whoever wins this is going to get the leader's jersey, and they're going to be leading the series. We've only got a 3-round series, so each event is really, really crucial. And yeah, now it's Sophie Langford coming to the front here, and everyone is making a good contribution here, which is nice to see.
You can really see the experience from the Campinese ladies. They've been racing like this for the last month in the Tour Series. They know they need to be near each other. They know they need to support each other. You can really see that experience and that teamwork kind of taking place there, and that 3 or 4 riders at the front just staying close to each other and communicating with each other. And you can see Jo Tinley every corner. Another prime example, looking over her shoulder, checking the gap, showing the experience, because she has got a lot of experience on those shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. And also, the more you can race together as a team, the more you get to learn each other, the more you get to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses and how to look out for each other in the bunch or in races like this. So these girls will be really well gelled together now, because we've had quite a lot of racing this season. We're now in mid-June, so we've had a lot of bike racing across the Tour Series and the National Road Series. So the more you can ride together at these sort of events, the better, really. And you do just learn, you learn the most about your teammates on these really hard days out, when everyone's suffering and the weather's bad, and you learn how each other reacts to it, how each other wants to, sort of what conversation you want to have before the race. Some people can seem quite quiet and you need to leave them alone. Other people really want to chat when they get quite nervous. So the more you get to know your teammates, the more you can really bring the best out of each other.
I used to describe days like this 2 ways: character building or soul destroying. It's either or, isn't it? There's no one really in the middle in a day like this, when it's, criterium racing and circuit racing itself is one of the hardest disciplines. And the riders from the UK, I would put a lot of money on saying that they're some of the best circuit racers in the world.
Yeah.
Especially with the strength and depth that we're now getting coming through the British cycling programmes as well. And now we've got events like, as you say, the women's tour, etc., really, really lifting the level of the racing in the UK, and it's great to see that strength and depth really, really coming through.
Yeah, well, I've always loved circuit racing. I was national crit champion back in 2008, so slightly showing my age there. But I think when you're a youth or a junior rider in the UK, you start out racing all the circuit races. So in Belgium, you get more Comest style races, which are sort of longer circuits, 5 to 10k circuits and a bit longer races. Whereas here we've got loads of town centre racing right from youth upwards. We've got a lot of the closed circuits. We saw one of them at the Women's Tour last week, the Cyclo Park in Kent. There's Hillingdon in London. There's the one at the Lee Valley Vela Park. So all these sort of closed circuits are really useful for sort of developing your bike handling skills from a really young age.
I tell you what, I'll make you feel even younger. I was national champion in 2007, so I'm even older. But this is great to see a little bit of action now. Campinese Velo Performance are not getting it all their own way, as a lot of the other riders within this group are now willing to take up the pace and actually push the pace. And we've seen a little move there off the front coming from this rider from the Silo Red team.
Yeah, so she's been mainly sat on the wheels for the first sort of 10 minutes of this race, and then taking the opportunity to try and attack now, not getting a great gap over these riders. But as the race develops over the next sort of hour of racing, there'll be more and more tired legs out there, and you'll start to get that elastic will start to break. So everyone that's been working hard here just got a little bit of a lull in the action now. This group is really quite established now, away from everybody else. But then we'll start to see attacking in between this group.
Yeah, this is it. This is actually the selection now. It's all about what happens from this point on. We've got 3 riders in here, obviously, from the Campinese Velo Performance team, 2 riders from Liv AWOL, and a smattering of individual riders from the other teams. It's great to see the rider from Bianchi Doma as well in there. They were very, very present last week in the Cycle Classic as well. I've seen quite a lot of attacking from that team, which is always good to see them mixing it up.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it can be almost sort of human nature to go to big bike races and be nervous and think, I'm just going to try and hang on to the bunch, I'm just going to try and hang in there and not attack, not do anything major, and see how I get on. But actually, if you can race aggressively and you can get stuck in, it might not come off early on, but it will pay off long term. One day that attack will stick and you'll get that big win.
Yeah, it's speculation for accumulation, isn't it, as they always say.
Yeah.
The thing is as well with these sort of races is that it's not a big thing that changes the race. It's that little bit of tenacity, that little bit of confidence built from going a corner a little bit quicker, or putting your wheel in front of someone you think's a little bit stronger. That all builds, and then suddenly, as you're saying, one day it all just falls into place and you got the hands in the air.
Yeah, exactly. And on a circuit race like this, obviously we're doing multiple laps of the same circuit, so the first few laps would have been quite nervous. There would have been a lot of riders losing wheels in the wet and on the greasy corners, but now we've raced many laps of this circuit, everyone will be getting a little bit more confident. They'll know the lines to take, they'll just start to push their bikes a little bit harder round each bend, and that's when the elastic can really start to break.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Tinley again on the front, keeping the pressure on there as we just actually lapped our first race. That just shows you how quickly we're going round this circuit, Joe.
Yeah, they are going really quick, and there is probably quite a sort of difference in ability among some of the riders here. We've got quite a lot of juniors in this race, which is a great opportunity for some of the junior girls to compete against the elite women, and we see that across the series, that riders that just come out of youth, and it's a big step up from youth to junior because you find yourself racing with the elite women.
Hey, I tell you what, these three ladies are not hanging around today. They want to go off the front in a little 3-up team time trial. Joe Tinley again putting her shoulder into it and getting really stuck in and trying to drag her two teammates off the front here.
Yeah, so this could be a nice little group, and obviously you know that you're going to work well together if you've got 3 from your team, and it would mean a podium guaranteed for all of them, so that would play nicely into these girls' hands if that could come off.
Yeah, that would be perfect. You always like to share the podium with your teammates, don't you? But the very important thing to watch here in this circuit is that just before 100 metres to go, you've got a really sharp 90-degree right turn. That could be quite important for that last couple of laps, I think.
Yeah, it could be. So obviously in road racing, often you're racing point to point and you don't get to see the finish before the actual finish. So racing multiple laps like this, you get lots of looks at it. So there's really no excuse come the last lap of sort of knowing where to be and where to unleash your sprint. But obviously it's always different actually sprinting for the win compared to riding laps in a breakaway. So different things can happen, and riders can get a little too overexcited or just push it a little bit too much when it is the finish line coming up ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I always say that the fastest you approach that finish in the last corner is probably the last time you hit it, and you really get that chance to take it at full speed, and that's when things can really go wrong for people. I've seen it so many times in races when someone's coming in a corner and then suddenly it's 3 abreast and everyone's dive bombing themselves, and the person who's 5th in line usually comes out the winner because everyone else is on the deck. So it's always a big risk to take, especially conditions like this. But in circuit racing in general, you really need to have your wits about you and be really, more importantly, super confident in your equipment and your skills as well. Yeah,
and I think it's that point at the end where it's like all or nothing. You know, you've made it to the finish. Do you want to risk everything and potentially get the win, or do you want to back off a little bit and guarantee yourself a podium but never quite know if you could have won that bike race? So some riders will be a bit more conservative. Some riders will be thinking, I'm really glad I'm in this group and I don't want to crash now. Other riders will be willing to push it to the absolute limit to do whatever they can to try and get the win.
You can just also see there's even more things on the road, like little grates which are just, it's straight onto metal, really slippy and sliding. Reds are really having to navigate their way around these corners. They can't take a normal racing line. Normally it's an apex you take on these corners, but a lot of, like, as I like to call it, 50 pence piece, the corner. Take it a little bit later, give yourself a cleaner line, but again, this is the nature of this kind of racing, isn't it?
Yeah, the metal grates can be treacherous in the wet, and I used to find whenever I was racing a crit, it was always just where you wanted to go. It was always right on the line that you wanted to take, but obviously after a few laps, you know it's there, you know to avoid it, but if you're looking at the thing you want to avoid, you normally hit it. So like you say, it's about looking where you want to go, which might not be quite the perfect racing line, but you will get the hang of it after a lot of laps like this.
Yeah, I suppose the analogy is don't look at the tree.
Yes, you're going to go into the tree.
You're going to hit the tree, absolutely. And there again, we get a chance to take that little final right-hander again. It's, you know, it's the rain is still going. It's still coming down a little bit, but it looks like it's easing off. But the damage has been done with the rain, so it'll be interesting to see actually, Joe, if the conditions change again. Because if it dries up a little bit, that can be probably more treacherous than more rain.
Definitely, if it dries up a little bit, that can make it greasier. So, like I said before, I actually would prefer heavy rain, and you know that it's hammering it down, and you know that all the corners are just soaking wet, because greasy roads definitely can be the most treacherous, and it's then you think, have I got quite the right tyre pressures, or then you try and push it a bit more and then you realise that you've got it wrong, and of course you never know quite where the limit is until you've gone over the limit. So you can push a little bit harder each lap on each corner, but it's a case of not pushing just that little bit too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see still again little splits happening in this group. Keeps on pulling apart a little bit and coming back together again as the riders are maybe not as confident in the corners are really going to pay for that, and that's not only going to last for so long.
Yeah, so if you're not confident on the corners, even when you're in a small group, I think we've got 8 riders here, you can be sort of sat in that group, but if every corner you lose a bike length, that's a little bit harder. You need to sprint out of every single corner. That's another time hitting that sort of peak power. And there's only so many times you can do that within an hour. It's only an hour bike race, but if you keep doing that little bit extra, it is going to wear you down. So at the moment, I'd say in this group, you really want to sort of be in the top 4. There's 8 riders, and you know, normally if you were sitting 8th in a peloton, you'd be thinking, well, I've got a brilliant wheel here. This is a brilliant position to be in. But actually, in this situation, you really want to be in probably the top 4 of this 8. Probably if you're an individual rider here, probably let the girls that are in the same team do all the work, because you don't really need to do the work, but try and sit just behind them, like the girl from the Bianchi team is there, sat in third wheel, letting these Campanese Velo riders do the bulk of the work, but just hanging on to them.
You're starting to see a little bit of team tactics come into play there as we can round that corner. We've seen Jo Tinley take a little bit of a gap out of her teammate Charlotte Berry there and letting the wheel go, but it looks like it's all coming back again together. It actually looks like part of this course in the back here is starting to dry out a little bit. A little bit of standing water as well.
Yeah, so that will mean if it is drying out, the riders will probably feel like they can push a little bit harder around the corners. And they will try and do that as the race develops. And like you say, with 3 riders from the same team, you can, on quite a narrow circuit like this as well, you can have a rider attack and you can just let them go, and suddenly the next rider is, 2 or 3 bike lengths back, and they're going to have to be trying to jump quite a gap before they can really chase them down.
I tell you what, Tinley is not scared today. She's like poetry in motion today. She's just throwing all caution to the wind in all these corners, and that's one of Jo's biggest assets. She's got a great racing head, but she can handle a bike very well.
She's a really, really good bike handler. So when I started racing, she was already an established rider, a multiple national champion at youth and junior level, and someone that I always looked up to, and I was teammates with her back in 2006, I think I'm going to say. Quite a few years ago now.
Showing your age again.
Yeah, I know I am. But she was someone really good to race. Always quite relaxed on race day, and sort of felt like she knew what she was doing. And like you say, the skills on a course like this really, really are key.
Yeah, I would say Jo is the main protagonist here. She's been taking it by the scruff of the neck, to be honest. She's been speaking to her teammates, telling them what she wants them to do, because they need to really, they've got 3 riders in this group.
Yeah.
They need to be coming away with at least the win tonight.
They do. So they've got the numbers here. They are all riding very hard at the front, and we have seen a little attack from another rider, but not really getting any distance. It is hard to really get a big gap when you're accelerating out of corners, but then before you know it, you have to brake for the next one, so it can be hard to develop a big gap. But once you've got that gap, once you're out of sight, it can increase really rapidly.
And the great thing is when you are on your own, you can pick your own line, you can pick your own speed.
Yeah.
You're in control of everything. So again, this is why Tinley's spending so much time on the front. It looks like she's using energy, but in the long run she's actually saving quite a lot of energy as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think a race like this, you want to be riding it from the front. Like I say, even in this group, you want to really be in the top 4, because at the back you can see the rider at the back there sprinting hard out of that corner. Jo Tinley sat in the saddle. They're just sort of almost easing along this straight here, but everyone else having to really accelerate hard. And riders are trying to move up, but any chance you get to move up, you're coming to the next corner, and these guys are pushing it right to the edge there, to the barriers, and sprinting again. And it's not a full gas sprint for any rider on the front, but the further back you are, the harder and harder you have to work each corner.
Yeah, it's the old accordion analogy, or the elastic band. Sooner or later it's going to stretch and then it's going to break. So it looks like Tinley again on the pedal straight out that corner. She's not hanging about today. She wants to take this one, and she's got the support of 2 teammates with her in there as well. If she gets a gap, teammates come into a massive asset in this sort of situation, where they can actually, sit in the wheels.
Yeah.
They can block a little bit, give her a little bit of chance to gain a couple of seconds every lap, and before you know it, as you've said already, out of sight, out of mind.
It's gone. Yeah, exactly. We've got another rider just being lapped here, which is testament to how quick this group are riding on the front. Just a small group of 8, but they are lapping multiple riders, which is really impressive.
Yeah, it's astounding to see even just the level now of the racing here in the UK for the ladies. It's definitely grown over the last 2 or 3 years. In previous years, you maybe only have 1 or 2 girls in the front dicing away with each other.
Yeah.
But now you've got this abundance of talent really sticking it to each other, and it's great to see that. And that's a massive asset to have going forward for women's racing in the UK.
Definitely. So some of the tour series this year, we've had the likes of Katie Archibald turn up, Nia Evans, so some of the GB track girls. They've been racing at those events, and that brings everybody on. And when you're racing against people that are that strong, you're forced to ride harder, you're forced to corner better, you're forced to be in the right position. And then those sort of girls might not be at all these races, but suddenly you've gained those skills and you've improved yourself as a bike rider. So we do see some races in the UK where you've got a really high quality field with Olympic champions turning up, but that does improve the standard of everybody across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of you've got them there and you can see them, and you're in the same changing room and you're on the same start line, and you're sharing the same tarmac as them. So it's very inspirational, but it's also very aspirational as well. You kind of you want to reach to be like that, but again you get pulled up by them as well, just having them in the same in the same environment as you. And that's something that you don't really see an awful lot in other sports. I mean, you wouldn't get for instance, you wouldn't get a young girl or guy who maybe plays for like a local football team getting a chance to play with Man U on the same pitch.
Exactly.
So it's really cool, and it's great to be able to do that and be so close to, obviously, riders like yourself, a multiple Olympic champion. It's really nice to be around that, but also share your experiences with these young athletes and make them realise that it's 2 arms and 2 legs like everyone else. It's just what the head tells them what to do.
I think it seems more achievable as well when you can race with people like that. I remember one of my first road races, Rachel Hill turned up, and she was a pro back then around the sort of Nicole Cook era, and she was really experienced, incredible rider, and she won the race quite convincingly. And I was like, oh my god, it's Rachel Hill, I can't believe I'm racing the same race as her. And it does make you think, wow, the stepping stones aren't actually that far from the level that I'm at to the level that I want to be at, and you can sort of almost see that pathway developing ahead of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel is an absolute class act, and I think she's still pretty active in women's racing as well in the USA, isn't she?
Yeah, she's been de-essing, so one of the few sort of female de-essers that has worked in men's racing as well as women's racing, and you're having a great career out in the US. She sort of finished her career racing out there, and now, like I say, working in teams out there.
Yeah, it's great to see these people, not only being part of the sport and being successful as an athlete, but still sticking around and being a part of it and handing down that knowledge to the next generations.
Yeah, definitely. So it's always, I think, interesting when you're working with a team manager that has been there and done it themselves, and they get it and they understand it a lot more, and they sort of sympathise with the different stresses that you have as an athlete and the different sort of hopes and fears and all the different things that are going through your head that I think not everyone can really fully understand unless they've actually been in that position on the start line of a bike race like that.
Yeah, it definitely helps, because then you've got a great experience base to ask the questions off the back of and trust that information you've been given. There's nothing worse than maybe not having that experience base to go on the back of, and Jo Tinley's a prime example of that in the race today. She's not the team manager, but she's bossing this race, literally just barking orders to her teammates and really asserting herself, and that there is the epitome of a class bike rider.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of teams will have a sort of team captain on the road, and that will be one of the more experienced riders who will sort of call the shots on race day in the peloton, talking to their other teammates in the bunch. And when you've got a more experienced rider, that's absolutely perfect for them to sort of take on that role.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always good to have someone like that in a race, just to kind of lean on them a little bit and ask them, what do I need to do here? What should we be doing as a team? Because we've got to remember, this is also a team sport. It's not about the individual winning across the line. It's very team orientated, and it's all about helping each other, but also been dealing with, you've got to deal with in that moment. Sometimes you're at the end of your energy and you're not in a good place, but your teammate comes back to you and goes, you need to come to the front, and you've got to go and do it. Yeah,
exactly. So I think when I've been racing and I've been quite nervous, it helps when you're there with a team of riders, even if they're you're not expecting to perform at the sort of same level as them. They're just someone else that you can lean on and just talk to before the race, when you're warming up, when you're getting your numbers, if you're not quite sure where to go, what to do. Going to a bike race in a team just changes everything compared to going as an individual. As an individual, you're full of nerves, you're wondering if you're in the right place, if you're warming up too early, if you've got your numbers on correctly. But when you've got someone else there that's a little bit more experienced to just ask those questions of, it always helps a lot.
Yeah, it's a little lamb on the shoulder just to reassure you, isn't it? It's so important, but it's such a simple skill to actually impart in people and give them that reassurance. And Tinley today is, she's been the linchpin of this race right now, especially for her two teammates who are just right now floating about at the back,
Yeah.
Maybe potentially thinking about a little hit out potentially.
I've just seen Jo flick her elbow, which means she wants the runner behind to come through, but she's getting absolutely no help from anyone else. I think the riders know that this is the team that's got the numbers in this group, and that there's no need for the other riders to work really, because there's 3 riders from Company's Velo, so why would you work with them when you know that they're going to start attacking you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's that Charlotte Berry back to the front again. Very, very powerful figure in Charlotte. You can see the difference in positioning as well in the bunch, where there's some riders sitting on the wheel, they're very happy and very comfortable. Some riders are sitting out in the wind. Obviously that's a little bit more energy expended, but
Yeah.
for the sake of being able to pick your own line and be out of the spray, that can be a very, very important part of these bike races.
Yeah, so normally you'd want to be right on that wheel. In this sort of weather, obviously, like you're saying, you're getting the spray from the wheel in front, which can be quite off-putting. It can get in your glasses, which can, stop your vision being as good, and then you can't see your line quite as well. So some riders will just sit out to the side of the bunch, perhaps on the easier sections, perhaps just coming into the corners when they can freewheel for a little bit, and use that chance to just see exactly where they are, see what road surfaces they've got to contend with, and sort of almost help them relax a little bit. I think you need to really trust the rider in front if you're going to just be glued to that wheel on a tight crit circuit like this. You've got to completely trust that they are taking the correct line at the correct speed. So a lot of riders will just take the chance to nip out to the side and just have a little look themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's nothing worse than coming to a corner and not be able to see where you need to be going. We've spoken about it so many times already today about how important it is to pick your line choice, and this group itself, we've been talking away here, but we've noticed now that also there's another 2 riders who've been distanced from this, and it's down to only 7 riders at the front of this bike race.
Yeah, it's whittling down gradually each lap, and like I was saying, each corner that you come to, if you are on the back foot, if you're losing a little bit of ground here and there, it will all add up and you will pay for it. So now we've got a rider from Liv Halo Cycles come to the front, so she's putting in some effort now. Not quite getting a gap here, sort of being, the riders are right on her wheel, but for her as well, it's giving her a chance, like you say, to pick her own lines, to ride at her own pace, rather than keep chasing everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Charlotte Mitchell there coming to the front there, not willing to, have Company's Velo performance, really strangled this race. She wants to get in there, she wants to establish herself, and she wants to take a bit of the control back. As we can see now, she's going to the front. Big push out the corner. As you can see, the rider at the back from Bianchi Doma is having a real issue staying on the back of this group.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to tell on TV quite how hard it is, but being seven bike lengths back, you are having to sprint that much harder out of each corner. And you can see she's back on the back now and just relaxing, but every time that happens, lap by lap, you are going to keep paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be quite demoralising every single time you turn the corner, and the wheel you've just been sitting on feeling nice and comfortable with just disappears up the road ahead of you, and before you know it, you just get back on as you slow down for the next corner, and then it happens again.
Yeah.
So as we can see, this is a particularly technical course today. We've got a couple of hairpins, really some real narrow sections, and a lot of changes of surface, which is going to really come into play in those last few laps. Launch pads, let's start thinking about the finish now. Launch pads, where could they attack, and what are the kind of the best sort of areas within this circuit you think could be a real benefit to anyone who's willing to put their nose in the wind today?
I think if you're really confident of cornering, you can almost occasionally attack into a corner and get that little bit of a gap and really accelerate hard out of it. You need to be very skilled to be able to do that, and very confident that you can pull that off. If you're not so confident there, you've got some of these straighter sections, but that's almost everyone can see you there, and they've got the brilliant, the easier it is to attack, the easier it is to chase as well. So the perfect position is to have teammates, like we've got 3 riders there from Company's Velo. If one of them attacks, the rest can just sit back and let that wheel go, and before you know it, you've got a gap, and once you've got that gap, it's so much easier to extend it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see the quality of this group as they lap even more riders now as we come into this midway point now in the race. It's starting now, really. There's a few riders getting a bit more confidence. It's maybe starting to come out a few bad patches from the start of the race. The issue when the weather is like this, obviously, you warm up, you get everything ready, you get psyched up, and then you have to stand in the rain, and you get a little bit demoralised. But usually at this point in the race, people get a little bit of a second wind and start getting their confidence built up, and then start thinking about the finish. But I think we're going to see a bit more action coming up in the next few laps, because it looks like a few more riders are willing to take the race to Company's Velo performance.
Yeah, definitely. So that's Sophie Langford on the front now. She's ridden really well this whole race. She's been up there the whole time, so I've been really impressed with her. But once again, that looks like Jo Tinley just pushing it again on this corner.
Yeah, and you can really see Jo is on the edge of the tyres. They're using the inside knee to keep herself upright and balanced, as she's now putting in a big attack, and I think she's had enough of this.
Yeah, definitely. So she's been looking like she's been itching to go a race, and she's just got a couple of bike lengths here, but it's not quite enough. Sophie Langford just chasing her down here. But as we come into another corner as well, so she's still holding that sort of bike length gap, but I don't think it's quite enough to really break the elastic this time. Oh, and we've got a big crash behind.
Oh, that's unfortunate. And the unfortunate thing as well in these races is that there's no laps out at all, and that's terrible for Lauren Biff from PDQ Cycling Coaching.
Yeah, so now that's actually played into the hands of Jo Tinley and Sophie Langford here. They've actually got a gap now over the other riders. So I said it before about being in the front half of this group is crucial. We've only got a group of 7, but suddenly it's the first 2 riders here, because it's wheel 3. She just slides there and tries to hold it.
It's just that little change of surface there, Joe. Those little shiny kind of granite slate that's on the ground there from the city centre paving. And these two have now got a gap. And I'll tell you something, if these two get themselves organised and commit to this, they're not going to get seen again today.
Absolutely. So if these girls can work together now, which they seem to be doing, Joe's got 2 teammates behind, so they can just sort of back off that group. They won't be doing any work, but they can cover any attacks. But it's up to the other girls to do the chasing now. But I think on this sort of course, in these conditions, once you've got a bit of a gap, that can last forever. We're just seeing these girls look back a few times over their shoulder here, just seeing what they've got to play with. They don't want to commit 100% if they're not getting anywhere, but actually they've got a gap they can play with here. It's not huge, but if they keep working with this could be the race-winning move.
Yeah, and it's Jennifer Pills on the front of that little group from Bianchi Dama trying to pull this back. She's got to commit, because as you said, Tinley's got 2 teammates there, and they're sitting perfectly poised in 2nd and 3rd place, ready to pounce if this comes back together. To see Tinley taking it up the inside in that last big hairpin.
Yes, there's only 2 riders here that are really going to work. The rider at the back there from Liv Halo Cycles, and the rider from the Bianchi team as well. So they're the only ones that are going to do anything. Jo Tinley's teammates from Companies Velo will just sit there, follow any moves. Or if they get the opportunity, just sort of almost hamper the chase. If they do sort of, anyone flicks the elbow for them to come through, they'd just probably soft tap through and not do any sort of contribution. It's a really small gap they're playing with here, but all you need is a small gap on this sort of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It just needs a few more metres, and then they can be potentially out of sight and out of mind. But as you can see here, Tinley's really asserted herself on this afternoon. With those 2 teammates in the back, it's really tough game for the chasers. Jenny Powell's not going to get any help there at all, and every time she looks over her shoulder, she's going to see 2 teammates, and that's got to be the worst feeling in the world when you look around and see another 2 people from the same team just sitting on you and literally grinning at you, going, right, okay then, your job.
Yes, yeah. So you have to, in that situation, think, right, do I want to win this bike race? If I do, I'm going to have to do the chasing myself, which is frustrating, because then that then leaves you open to counter attacks, and you're going to be on the back foot then. But ultimately, if you don't do the chasing yourself, you're settling for 3rd.
There's a surprise move. One of Tinley's teammates has decided to take off from that little group. She was trying to get across. That looked to me like it was Charlotte Berry making a big effort.
Yeah, she made a big effort there on the front, just looking over her shoulder, seeing that the other girls are with her. So in this situation, if you're feeling good, you might think, I want to jump across and help my teammate out and make a break of 3, but there's no point jumping across if you're going to drag everyone else with you. So you really want to check that no one is on your wheel and you've got a clear gap before you commit to that hard chase.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be bringing anyone across, because that's not going to be a nice conversation after a race if you bring someone across and they end up beating both of you. But these 2 looking very committed to it, and now looks like maybe that chase from Jo Tinley's teammates maybe balked that little group itself. They're now looking at each other and they're kind of grouped up, and they're not really committing to chasing now.
Yeah, well, I think if you've got someone that's going to attack you, you then think, well, I'm not going to drag you around if you're going to then jump as soon as you've got the chance, so why should I do the work now? So you could think in that situation, well, actually, I'm not going to drag you up because you're just going to attack me. So, all 4 girls there are sitting watching the win ride away from them. So she's probably thinking, well, someone else needs to do a bit of work here.
Yeah, and you could just see there Tinley had a little look over her shoulder when she was at the back of this little duo there, just checking the gap, using her experience and using that, those years of racing, to her advantage here, and really wants to keep pressing on with this, because she is eager for the win here. But again, we see her 2 teammates sliding to the front. It's a good example here, a good teamwork here, if you can just ease up off the pedals and let it go. But it doesn't look like they're winning in this game at all. It looks like it's three teammates against each other at this moment.
Yeah, well, they're probably thinking they can jump across this, and they want to be in it, and they want to be in it to win it. So we've now got one of those riders from Companies Velo looks like she's got a gap over the other 3 riders in that group, and she's trying to make it across on her own. The thing is, with these 2 riders away, it's actually quite nice having just 2 of you, because you can work quite evenly together. When you've got quite a big breakaway, it's easy to have someone sitting on and not contributing, but with just the 2 of them, they can easily share out the turns between them.
Yeah, I think that's Lizzie Bennett trying to come across here now as they take this another tight left-hander on this. It's actually an outstanding circuit, this. It's very technical. It's just a shame that it's rained today, and obviously makes it a little bit, the speed's not as high as it could be, but it's a really nice course, lots of variety, lots of nice sweeping corners, and nice technical element to it, as well as a little bit of elevation. So it's nice to have an event like this in the city centre of Bristol, bringing bike racing to the public.
Yeah, it's really testing riders in different areas. So like you say, there are a few rises, there are the different road surfaces, we've got these wet conditions as well. So now it looks like she's about to make the junction here, which is testament to how strong she is, that she managed to do that on her own and not take anybody else with her. It is often hard to actually make the jump away. Perhaps you're strong enough to close that gap, but you've got to do it with a hard sprint at the start, because otherwise you're going to bring everyone else with you.
Yeah, so the question is now, is the job going to be left to the 2 companies of Velo Raiders now?
Yeah, well, if I was Sophie Langford there from Team Jaden, I would be thinking, well, it's not my job to do any work now. This break's been established. I've done my job with Jo Tinley. Now she's got a teammate here, so actually I don't need to do any work. But there is a girl from Bianchi there now on her own thinking, can I try and make this junction as well?
Yeah, again, that's Jenny Powell trying to get across there. She's been the main person who's been trying to pull this group back, and you have to ask the question, has that move from Jo Tinley's teammate Lizzie Bennett actually made this happen? Could this just have been Jo and Sophie riding away, or is this a little bit of a spanner in the works?
Possibly. By Lizzie Bennett there jumping across on her own, it's obviously splintered that group, and there would have been riders that weren't able to hold her wheel, but actually this rider here has been thinking, if I just plug along I can make it. And it's almost so Sophie Langford currently working really hard on the front here, but if I were her, I would back off and I would sit up a bit, because it's now 4 riders together with quite a clear gap over the next rider. The next rider in the picture there is actually a rider who's just been lapped, so she's not on the same lap as these riders here that are racing. So you've got 4 riders here, 3 podium spots, 2 from the same team. I would be sitting in at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this front move now, we have got Jennifer Powell from Bianchi Dama. We have also got 2 teammates, Lizzie Bennett as well as Jo Tinley from the Campanese Velo Performance, as well as Sophie Langford as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if I was either Sophie or if I was Jennifer, I would not be doing any work here right now, because it's been pretty obvious from the get-go that Campanese Velo Performance are here to tear this race to bits, and they're the ones who have made these breaks. So if they want to race like that, you need to let them get on with it.
Absolutely. So Sophie Langford here actually getting a bit of gap. Having just said that, so saying she just sit in, she's actually looking really strong, and we're now passing a group of riders who are getting lapped, and actually she might be thinking, I want to be on the front here, I want to lap these riders on my own terms. I don't want to get caught up in any lap riders on the corners, and actually if I can take these corners now at my own pace, get past everyone else, she'll then probably feel a bit safer and more secure. But she's riding really strongly.
Yeah, that's a searing attack, isn't it? I think you're right though, there's a lot of information coming as well from the pits area, from all the coaches and the team managers, but I think you're absolutely right there, Joe. What you said is she's seen the opportunity with the group, and she wanted to try and get into that corner ahead of them, to see if that could then hold up the rest of that group to make them chase. It almost worked there, but obviously Tinley has got the bit between her teeth today. She's wanting this bike race, and with her teammate being in there as well with Lizzie Bennett, it's stacked against the other 2 in this situation, I think.
It is. When you lap a group of riders like that in a crit like this, it can be quite difficult, it can be quite tricky, especially when you've got the technical circuit like this. You've not got much space in terms of the width of the circuit, so that if you can get past safely, it can hamper some riders. So the rider at the back there from Bianchi, she looked like she was struggling ever so slightly compared to the other 3. Sophie Langford looking really strong, Jo Tinley looking really strong back on the front now.
I tell you something though, she may be struggling a little bit technically, but she is not struggling physically at all today. She's putting in a massive effort to get across there, and as we've seen, every now and then she does get a little bit distance in the wet and greasy corners, which can happen to anybody. You just need something slightly wrong, a little slip, and the confidence goes. But physically, she's probably been one of the strongest riders in this move.
Yeah, she has been really strong, and we talk about each time you lose the wheel, you're using a bit more energy, but on the other hand, it is only a 1 hour race. We're not talking about a 3 hour road race here, so you know, if you've got the endurance from road racing and if you keep chipping away at it, actually she might have still some in reserve.
Yeah, it looks like the other two riders are slowly pulling their way back up here, as you see the rider from Livy will get back on, as well as another teammate there of Campinese Velo Performance. But I tell you what, Sophie Langford is having none of this today. She wants this group to stay away and she doesn't want anyone else to get on the back of this.
Yeah, fair play to her taking this on. You know, she can see that those riders are about to make the junction. She was in a break of 2, just her and Joe Tinley, then expanded to 3, now 4. It could potentially be 6, and she's thinking, well, I want a podium position here. I've been away in a break. I was guaranteed a top 2. Don't want to find myself in a group of 6, so she's putting the work in here and trying to keep this group away.
Yeah, the only issue with that attacking and the stop-go nature of that is that they're never riding at a constant speed, whereas the riders behind them will be riding at a constant speed.
Yeah.
So it kind of negates what they're trying to achieve. I've just seen Tinley there wriggle her way around that corner as she almost hit one of the big massive metal grates in the middle of the road. Great skills.
Yeah, very, very skilled there. Like you say, if you're chasing, you can do a nice sort of consistent pace. You can lap how you want to. You can take the corners how you want to. If you're attacking each other, it's very on-off. That's going to build up a lot more lactic acid each time you're sprinting away and trying to close those gaps. So it can be far more costly. And it looks like we have got these 6 riders all back together now, but gaps still opening up on each corner. And once again, it's Joe Tinley on the front, followed by Sophie Langford, both looking very strong here.
Yeah, Tinley has been the main animator for sure in the whole of this race, pretty much from lap 1. She's not really been very far off the front, to be honest with you. I think the furthest back I've seen her ride is maybe about 4th or 5th, but she wasn't there for very long at all. So she's obviously got great condition and is oozing full of confidence today. Yeah,
she's ridden this race on the front. So the 2 riders at the back of this group, which just almost keep making that junction there, then just keep getting gapped on each corner. So they've made it back now, but I'm not certain they're going to stay there for the duration of this race. It depends how hard these girls push it now. Do they want to risk it? Do they want to try and shell them again? Every corner that we see, just little gaps keep opening up.
Yeah, you can just see Tinley did a little flick of the elbow there, trying to get someone to come through and ride, because I think she really wants to go back and just check out who is in this group, because she's been on the front that often that she's not even been at the back of the group. She's now taking a big look over her shoulder just to see who's here.
Yeah, it can be quite hard in a technical crit to really know exactly what's going on around you, especially if you're racing from the front. You're riding hard, you're sprinting out of all the corners, you're never really slipping back more than 3rd or 4th in the group, and you're determined to keep that group away. Sometimes you need a little moment to just sit up slightly, look behind you, see who else is there, take sort of account of the situation. Otherwise you find yourself constantly drilling it on the front and not really aware of who else is in the group with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to have eyes literally in the back of your head in these circuit races, and that's that's one of the most important skills, is knowing where you're at, having that spatial awareness and taking those moments like now to have a little look over your shoulder, see who's around about you, and most importantly try and have a look into the rider's eyes, like Tinley's doing right there. She's wanting to check out what's going on, what are the faces like, what can I kind of get from behind those glasses? Is there a little chink in the armour appearing anywhere? Is there anything I can start to exploit? She's now going to start thinking, as we get into this thick end of this race, how am I going to win this from here?
Yeah, definitely. So the pace has definitely come off in this group now. There's definitely a lull in the action. We've got these 6 riders back together. We had 2, then it went to 3, then 4, now back to 6. So everyone's having a little look at each other now, not racing quite as hard. We are 3/4 of the way through the race. Once they've raced for an hour, they'll get 5 laps to go, and that will be the sort of real point where they'll be thinking, right, how hard can we push it now?
Yeah, that's exactly, and it's literally it's a time game now, isn't it? Everyone's kind of thinking now, I need to look after myself to these last 5 laps, and that's almost like another watershed. It's only 5 laps to go, so less than 10 minutes of racing.
Yeah.
So we're into the last sort of 25 minutes of racing now, and it's really, really important now to really make sure you've seen Tinley's back wheel slide out there as she took over that speed bump. Just got to really keep it upright, keep it rubber side down, keep that good lines around these corners, and really look after yourself all the time, trying to save energy, be in the right place in a positional point of view, but also from a tactical point of view, because it is going to start very, very soon become a very tactical game.
Definitely. So I always think in a crit where it's something like an hour plus 5 laps, there can be this bit of a lull between sort of 45 minutes and an hour where you've done the bulk of the racing, but you've not got that lap board up yet, so you're not quite sure how many more laps you're racing. But as soon as you've got that 5 laps on the board, you know at that point, right, this is it. 5 more times round that hairpin, 5 more times up that drag, 5 more times over that finish line, and that's it. So I always think psychologically that can often change the dynamic of the racing.
I tell you, someone who's not waiting for those 5 laps to go, Jennifer Powell's back on the front again from Bianchi Dama. She's wanting to really get in about this today, and you can see just here to take these corners, it's really tentative coming around. There are lots of, as we said before, road markings, lots of metalwork on the ground. That corner, I think, Joe, is going to be so important in that last couple of laps.
Yeah, because that's about 150 metres to go before the finish line here in Bristol, and if you get that right, it can be brilliant. If you get it wrong, that's what we saw the crash earlier as well, and that can undo everything for yourself and anyone behind you. So you'd probably be thinking the top riders will want to be first into that corner, so you often get really almost the finish line is before the corner.
Yeah, but there's a big effort there from Charlotte Berry. She's had a little look around. Joe Tinley's slid to the back a little bit. I wonder if Joe had a little word on her ear. Right, you, up the road.
Yeah.
Let's get the pressure off me. Give me a little chance just now, and let's really drag the energy out of everyone else in this group.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's time for the company's Velo girls to really use their numbers and really start one-twoing the other girls in this break. There's 3 of them, and they need to use that to their advantage.
Sure.
And here Jo is just sort of looking over her shoulder. She's not pushing hard out of that corner. She's letting her teammate get the gap. Of course, Jo is particularly fast at cornering, so it's easy for her to sort of gain space at these points in the course, but currently sort of letting her teammate gradually get away.
But again, it's Jennifer Powell back on the front. As I said already today, she has been one of the strongest riders in this group, and every time a gap's going, it's the jersey of Bianchi Dama back on the front again, trying to pull it back. But how much energy she got left? She can't do this the whole race. She needs to save some energy for the finish.
Yeah, definitely. So, but it's that crucial point where you think, if I don't work, the win's gone. If I want the potential to win, I'm going to have to do some work here, because she's not got numbers, she's not got teammates around her. And I think I was often in that position in bike races where I was thinking, well, perhaps I shouldn't be the one doing the work here, but actually if I don't, no one else is going to do it. So you've got to make that decision in your head, what you're going to do. And it's looking now she is just about to make the junction there with that rider.
I think you're maybe just too nice, Joe, to be honest with you. A little bit more ruthless now, and then never. It goes a long way sometimes. But no, we're getting more, and every single lap we're ticking past here, we're going through minutes. We're not get that much longer now until we're going to start seeing that 5 laps to go. But I tell you what, we're persistent with this little effort, and then these two are going at it with each other. The gap's not quite closed fully yet. It'll be interesting to see what comes off the back of this. Is someone going to go straight over the top of this when it comes back together, or is it going to be another Campanese rider going over the top?
Yeah, if I was in that group, I would be waiting for just the right moment then to attack as soon as I could. So we've had one rider doing a lot of work here. The company's fellow riders will be thinking they want to counter-attack, but if I were perhaps Sophie Langford there, sat in second wheel, I would try and go for it myself at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably a good time for Sophie to make an effort, isn't it? Go straight over the top, get to that rider, and then maybe try and go over the top of her as well. But we've talked so often now about this last corner. It's 150 metres from that corner. If you're not first or second into that corner, you ain't going to be winning that bike race.
No, yeah, so the sprint is really for that corner. So the sprint is in the straight before that, and perhaps even the corner before that. So you have to be thinking in your head already at this point, what position do I want to be in there? Okay, what position do I need to be in the corner before that? And where do I really need to make my move so I know I'm going to be in that correct position at that point to go?
Yeah, as you say, it's almost like the race for the win actually happens with half a lap out, so you have to make sure you're in the right place, because we can see here there's not actually an awful lot of places you can move up.
No.
It's quite a fast course, it's quite flowy, but it's also pretty narrow in places where it only takes one rider or two riders to fan out across the road, and then suddenly that gap you're trying to get through disappears.
Yeah, exactly. We've got these couple of hairpin bends, a drag out of this hairpin here. Sophie Langford is now on the front, putting in some effort, but not quite getting a gap over the company's Velo girls at the moment.
And Tinley is right on the back of her like a backpack. She's like, I'm not letting you go anywhere today. This is my race to win. But again, followed right away by her teammate, and there's is that a little gap kind of appearing at the back as Jenny Powell left a little gap?
There is a little gap, but I think we're just seeing the difference on some of the corners. Some riders aren't quite as confident and just lose a bike length here or there, which, like I say, could make a huge difference on the final lap with that final corner. But at the moment, they're coming back together now.
So, sprint-wise, who do you think's the fastest in this group then, Joe?
Oh, I think in terms of the technical finish, I would put my money on Jo Tinley, because it is a technical finish. A corner at 150 to go, and a tight one at that as well, with all these different road surfaces in the wet. I think the experience and the skills is really probably the more important than the pure speed.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we can't underestimate Sophie Langford. She has been incredibly strong today, and she's showed many times that she's not scared to take on those three teammates from Campanese Velo Performance. And the most important part about that is that if she gets a little gap, she's shown today that she is strong enough to push on. She only needs to get 10-15 metres, and then the other team's on the back foot, and then that's it, potentially.
Absolutely. She's been very strong, and she's not been scared of reputations, not been scared of the fact that she hasn't got any teammates. She's been racing hard, and I think that's quite important in a sport like cycling. It's quite easy to be intimidated by the riders in the bunch that have perhaps got a higher profile than you, or a stronger palmares than you, and think, oh, that's so and so, I can't attack them. But she's not been scared to attack anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? A lot of the riders actually rely on that an awful lot,
Yes.
especially in these circuit races, because in the nicest of ways, sometimes you have to be a bit of a bully.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's easy to think, oh, I'm with this person, this is brilliant, I can't believe I'm on this person's wheel, I'm doing really well. But actually you need to forget who it is, and you need to race the bike race to race for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We could be surprised here today. I mean, like Jenny Powell could take a flyer with a lap to go if they start looking at each other.
Yes.
We just don't know, because it's actually, we've got to this point where it's almost a bit of a stalemate. The
Yes.
3 riders from Companies Available Performance, they've tried.
Yeah.
The only one I haven't seen much of in the last couple of laps has been Lizzie Bennett.
Yeah.
But is she waiting for something in particular, maybe a couple of laps to go, and have a big hit out from a couple of laps to the finish?
Yeah, so now we're almost at an hour of racing. Once they've done an hour, they'll get the 5 laps to go, and I think that will then sort of change. The other moment that is that sort of lull where you're almost waiting for that lap board to come up now. I think that can be the frustrating thing between 45 minutes and an hour of crit racing. You're like, come on, somebody put the lap board up. Someone give me a sense of how far away the finish is, because at the moment they're just racing by time. So no matter how fast they go, they're still going to be racing. So I think once that lap board comes up, it's better.
Absolutely, and you never actually remember to press your button on your Garmin as well.
So you haven't pushed it the right
is it 5
time,
minutes to
so-
go? And that,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But I mean, they've got information from the side of the track as well. So when they do finish that 1 hour, they will see the lap board with 5 laps to go. But they have also got information coming from the pit as well. But how important is that in this kind of event?
I think it's difficult to get much information from the pit, and also the person that's standing in the pit giving you, snippets of information or advice. They're not in the bike race, and they can see you come past once each lap, but they can't see the full lap. So they're giving you, they might, you might be in the pit, and you might say to your rider, get off the front. You've always been on the front, but actually they're only on that bit where they pass you. So it can be frustrating sometimes as a rider to get advice from someone who's not seeing the full bike race.
Yeah, I think we've both been victims of that potentially in races.
Get off the front, Joe. I have been off the front.
Judging by your answer, but that's the thing. You're totally right. The main thing a person from the cycling do is give information.
Yes.
Time information, time gap information, and how many laps to come up. But it's very, very difficult, as you say. It's just that snapshot, that little photograph they get of the race, and it's not the whole thing, unfortunately.
So I think the key information here for these riders will be, is there a chase group that could potentially catch them? I don't think there is. There's not one that we've seen. So I think if I were a coach or a team director in the pit, I'd be saying to these riders, you 6, you've got it. The gap's huge. You don't need to keep pushing on for the sake of pushing on. You need to be attacking. There's no point anyone in this group really driving it for the sake of maintaining a gap, because there isn't anyone coming up behind them really that I can see. Yeah,
absolutely. And we can see again there was a decent little bit of pace put on there again by Sophie Langford, but again it's just came back together again. I think there's a little bit of nerves kicking in as the pressure cooker for 5 laps to go is slowly starting to take its toll on these riders.
Yes. They've been racing really hard from the start. Like we said, they've all raced from the front. They've ridden hard from lap 1, and they've established this group without really attacking. Really just by riding hard on the front, this select group has established itself. Now they're about to come over the finish line again. We've not done quite an hour of racing, so I think next time we'll get that 5 laps to go.
I tell you what, they'll welcome that 5 laps to go board when they finally get to see it, because you know what, it's been an incredibly tough race. It's been tough physically, it's been tough tactically, but it's been really tough from the skill point of view as well. And I used to always find when I was doing races like this in the wet, things would hurt that don't usually hurt. Like your lower back would get really sore because you're a little bit more tense.
Yeah.
Going round those corners because you're not too sure where the grip is.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more tentative, so there's a little bit more stress on other parts of your body. And for me, it was always my lower back would really start to hurt just about now when the race starts to kick off again.
And also the concentration as well. You can't relax. You can't think, oh, I'll just follow the wheels for a bit. I'll just sit in the bunch. You're never really going to. If you stop concentrating for a little bit, that can be the mistake that costs you. You could come off on a corner or something. So I often think in these sort of races, you've got to concentrate hard the whole way. It's technical. It's wet. You're racing you're racing hard in a small group here, so it can be sort of mentally quite hard to keep that focus as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, these races are by no means a a cruise around the city centre. It's flat out from the gun. You get your foot on your pedal, you sprint up to max speed, and you pretty much just stay there for an hour and 15 minutes. So you need to find the recovery, as some people would say in these courses. But right now I think everyone's trying to get as much air into the lungs as they can. Maybe even think about popping a gel and getting something at the water bottle, just get a little bit of energy for this last 15 minutes of racing, because it's going to be upon them before we know it, and that's when you cannot make mistakes.
Yeah, so this group, the pace has really come off now. They've got a group behind catching them, so this sort of changes things quite a lot. We've gone from 6 riders to 10 plus riders here in this group, which definitely changes things as you're racing into these tight corners.
Yeah, I think the riders know that they can't interfere, and as we see, Jo Tinley's not willing to let that happen. She wants to get back on the front, wants to stretch it out a little bit. She takes that flat out round there, and you know what? Jenny Pill, we've been saying that she's not been looking that confident around the corners all day, but she was straight into there, all guns blazing.
Yes, she was definitely giving that a good go to try and follow Jo Tinley there. So Jo's been cornering really well all day, really confident on these wet corners, and you can see the gaps developing behind her. She's obviously thinking, I don't want this lull in pace that doesn't play into my hands. Often it's harder to win a bike race that's a slower bike race. Like an easier bike race can be the hardest ones to win. It's actually easier if you're a strong rider to have a hard race throughout, because that then everyone's suffering, and then when you make the attack no one can follow you. The worst thing is when the pace lulls and everyone's looking at each other, because the next person to attack, everyone can go straight with them. So she's thinking, I'm not having any of this, I'm going to go.
We could really see the experience there in Tinley though. She waited till she got that little sequence of lefts and rights, jumped into them, got a little gap, and you can see here that she's really managing to hold that gap, and it looks like at the back there's a slight lull while Jenny Pill from Bianca Dama is the one who's doing all the work here. All the time Jo Tinley's got 2 teammates just sitting in that group, just waiting to cover things. If I was her teammates, I'd be getting on the front of that group, and I would be trying to bulk this.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Just get on the front, just take those corners at a slow, sort of casual pace, do no work whatsoever to close the gap, let everyone else do some work. So now we've finally got that 5 laps to go, so now the racing is really going to be on. Quick look over the shoulder there for Jo Tinley, just to see what everyone else is doing, but she's got a good gap. This is the biggest gap she's had on her own the whole race.
Absolutely, and she's showing full commitment here. The great thing about being a rider of the level of Jo Tinley is that she can press on really hard on the straight bits, get that little bit of recovery through the corners, get a little bit of air into herself, get some recovery, and then get back on the gas straight out of the corners, because she's by far the best around these corners today in my book, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you're good technically, you can recover on the technical sections. If you're bad technically, they just make you work even harder, because you have to sprint even harder out of each corner. So for someone like Jo that has been cornering really well, she's just having a quick check over her shoulder. It's Sophie Langford currently on the front she's been really strong all race, but just on the back foot here, just missing this attack by Jo Tinley.
So it's she has been incredibly strong today though, and look at that, she's dragging away another one of Tinley's teammates as well.
Yeah, so we did see this group splinter before into the sort of the 4 and the 2, so I think we might see that happen again. We were quite clear earlier who the strongest riders were, so this could happen again now the racing is really back on full gas. But Jo Tinley getting a nice gap, but they're going to have to work hard to close this on this technical circuit.
This for me now is a race about teammates. Tinley's teammates need to get in the front of this group, and she needs to slow it down. They need to really use their numbers now, because if they don't do that now, Tinley is fully committed, and if she gets caught, she ain't going to have enough gas left for that sprint finish.
No, that's crucial. If they can work well together now, if they can have that little bit of communication, it's not a case of really doing anything, it's just backing off and just being there to cover any counter-attacks but not initiating anything. And Sophie Langford's nearly getting there actually.
Yeah, that's a massively strong, but we've seen this already before, Jo, that these are by far the 2 strongest riders in this race.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're 2 very different riders. Sophie is very strong in a straight line, not scared to do any work, and she's ultra powerful. Jo, a little bit more diminutive, a little bit more sprightly, a lot more experience obviously on her shoulders. The question is, what's she going to do with that experience today? Is she going to look over her shoulder and see her coming, wait for her, and then try and expose her and do the same as she did just a lap ago? Yeah,
the problem is when you're the 2 strongest riders in the bike race, if you keep attacking each other, you can almost wear yourself out, and it could be that third rider that's just sitting there thinking, almost sort of laughing at the both of you, thinking, well, you're attacking each other, you're wearing each other out, but actually I've got something left in my legs now.
So here we go. Is it all going to come back together? This is now 5 laps to go. Please ignore the caption we had up last lap. That was a minor mistake. It's 5 laps to go now. As we can see now, Tinley, one of her teammates coming across there. Is that, that's Lizzie Bennett, isn't it?
Yeah, so she's been riding really strongly in the Tour Series, really strongly in the National Road Series already this season. So this, once again, this is the strongest 3 riders in the bike race. We've seen these trio together before, and obviously that got brought back. But currently, once again, it's these 3 riders together. So I just hope that they don't almost wear themselves out with this sort of riding.
Because that's the thing, is that they do really commit to this, and then they start to mess around in the last lap. It just needs a rider coming with a little bit more speed at the back, straight over the top of them, and it's race over.
Yeah, exactly. So you can really, if you're one of the stronger riders in a bike race like this, you can do too much work and you can tire yourself out. And they by no means got an unassailable lead here. It's just, you know, a matter of bike lengths back to the other 3 riders.
For my money, Lizzie Bennett should be on the front drilling this, because it's all going to come back now. The thing for me is that if you've got numbers, you have to use them, and we've seen this already today in the men's race that we covered earlier. If you've got teammates in there, you need to start utilising them, because Tinley is strong, but she's only going to have so much energy for this 1 hour and 5 lap race.
Yeah, definitely. So it's now Sophie Langford back on the front, and in this situation she doesn't need to be doing the work, because it's all come back together now. She needs to have a little look over her shoulder, realise that's the case, and just back off a little bit and save her legs. You know, we've seen how strong she is, so she's the only one that can really bridge across to Joe Tinley on her own, which has been really impressive. But I don't want her to wear herself out too much now at the front of this group.
Yeah, for my money, there needs to be another move by the Campanese girls. I think they need to go. They need to wear out Langford. They need to wear her out so that she's got zero effort left on her legs. They need to crack her with 1 lap to go. Otherwise, she's just going to do what she's doing right now. Right on the front. Super strong.
Yeah.
Tinley's wise to it, though. She knows this game. She's been around for a long time. A lot of experience on those young shoulders, and she's staying close to her. But for my money, Lizzie Bennett needs to be making a move pretty soon over the top to put Langford on the back foot.
Yeah, definitely. She's the next strongest rider in this group. We've consistently seen her able to cross to those front 2 twice now in this race. So we really need to see another attack now from her. The other riders consistently just losing a bike length or 2 each corner. So they do keep working a little bit harder, but we've now got a little bit of a lull in the action. Sophie Langford looking over her shoulder. The Campanese girls not willing to put any more attacks in at the moment.
The thing is, now we're in this last 5 laps as well, and every time round it's a missed opportunity, you know, to make a move and try and get away, because it's going to come down potentially to a small group sprint. And as we said already, that last corner, which we're going through right now, is going to be pivotal.
Yeah, that's a real lottery if you're leaving it to a sprint. It is far safer to be away on your own in a crit, and you can take those corners at your own pace and not be elbow to elbow with anyone else coming into those tight bends. But yeah, currently a real lull in the action here. That attack got neutralised by Joe Tinley, which I thought could have been a race-winning move, but these girls are a bit too closely matched, and if they keep just attacking each other, they're going to sort of wear themselves out, and everyone just keeps getting back to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're into like the last 10 minutes of racing now, so you know the time's running by. You know, they're going to have to start really thinking about what they're going to do, get themselves organised. I see Tinley slid back a little bit further again, but the cards have been playing already. Tinley wants to win this alone, and Langford's not willing to let her get up the road. Yeah,
so in this situation now with 6 riders, you can't all 6 be thinking, I'm the strongest sprinter here. There must be someone thinking, I'm probably not going to win this in a sprint. So if you're that person, this is the time when you've got to attack. You know, all or nothing. Do you want to settle for a top 6, or do you want to try and win the bike race?
As I'll always say, I'll never give somebody a hard time for not winning a bike race, but I'll give you a hard time for not trying to win.
Yes.
And that's the most important part. You've just got to put your nose in the wind, you know, don't be scared of it, and get really, really stuck in, because you never know. It just takes one little look over the shoulder, a little gesture, a little couple of words for 2 riders each other, having a little argument about who's going to chase. I'm not doing it, you do it. Before you know it, you've got 10 seconds and you've got the race in the bag.
Yeah, exactly. So we've still got Sophie Langford on the front. She's looking over her shoulder. She's seeing what everyone else is doing. There's 3 teammates there from Campanese Velo just sat in a row behind her, obviously thinking, well, we're not going to do any work now. You know, she chased Joe Tinley down. She's clearly the strongest rider. Let's leave her on the front. Let's get her working and maybe wait to launch the next attack.
The question is, did Tinley go too early?
Possibly.
Because that was a good move. That's exactly the move that she has to do to win this bike race.
Yes.
You know, either that or she has to come in super hot into those last 2 corners. And to be honest with you, I'm not a gambling man, but if I was Joe, I would try and win this on my own. It's the kind of race you need to win on your own, because the risk involved in that last corner, with the conditions we've got today, with a standing water and really greasy conditions underfoot, that is going to be a real issue in that last corner with the speed they're going to be coming into that.
Yeah, definitely. So we've seen the pace come off again here now, so no one willing to work with Sophie Langford. 3 teammates there from Companies Velo just easing their way to the front, but the racing isn't really full gas at the moment. So are we going to see someone go this lap, or are we going to wait for a sprint for 6 up riders?
I think it's a lot of posturing just now, as I think the Campionese girls are going on the front and maybe just holding the pace, just maybe to put people off. Maybe I've done a little bit of an attacking, but I tell you what, Sophie Langford, she is pinging today. She's straight on the back of that, and we see now Lizzie Bennett really giving it something here. I think she's now in lead out duties for Joe Tinley.
Yes, this is a big effort on the front here, but like you say, Sophie Langford is straight on that wheel. 2 girls at the back, they're just slightly struggling on some of these corners and really trying to make that junction, but we consistently see there's a couple of people that aren't quite as quick, and each lap it does make a little bit more difference each time. But
Yes.
Lizzie Bennett now really going for it on these corners.
Oh, that was super fast and a massive effort out of that corner as we're coming now. One more lap down. There's a slight split there in that front group, and we've got 3 riders off on the front. 2 riders from Campionese Velo Performance, along with Sophie Langford right there in the middle. She's the jam in this Campionese sandwich right now, and it's only 3 laps to go, so we've only got just about 7 minutes of racing left. But again, at the back, Campionese Velo Performance, the rider trying to come back across, but they have to be really careful. She doesn't want to bring the whole group back together, because right now it's a perfect situation at the front.
Yeah, perfect situation for Campanies Velo. They've got 2 riders in a break of 3. They can 1-2 Sophie Langford. They've got her sat on the front working now, because Sophie, she knows how strong she is. She doesn't really want to be in a group of 6. She wants to keep this breakaway going. This way she's guaranteed a podium and can sprint for the win. As a group of 6, you know, your odds are going down. So she's working at the moment. But I really would like to see the Campanies Velo girls get to the front and contribute to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to. There's 2 of them in there. They need to show a bit of willing and be willing to, because they were the ones that split it up in the first place. But
yeah,
Langford, you know, maybe showing a little bit of naivety here. I would be sitting on the back and missing the turn every now and then, because she's obviously one of the strongest riders in this group. Tinley now, 2 at the front, as you just said, they're showing an awful lot of willing here. She's willing to push this on, but again, just at the back from Bianchi Tama is Jenny Powell once more.
Yeah, she's very strong, and she keeps consistently, she doesn't seem to quite have the jump when an attack goes, but she seems to be able to plug away at her own pace and consistently bring breaks back. So we've seen, you know, this situation a number of times in this race with these same 3 riders having a gap, but once again it does seem to come back together.
Now, if they want this to stay away, they have to really commit, and they have to ride with each other till at least 1 lap to go. Otherwise, it's going to come back together, and then it starts all over again.
Yeah, it does. So you need to, currently it's Joe Tinley on the front, and if these 3 can work hard, if they can establish this gap over the other 3, that's the 3 podium places guaranteed, that they can then race it out for the win. These 3 girls not giving up though.
No, absolutely not. It looks now like the gap has finally gone out now. Bennett at the back's looking like she's struggling, but to be honest with you, at this point in the race and at the real sticky end of it, you're always going to see a lot of grimacing. It's just who's got the best poker face and who's looked after himself in these last couple of laps, because this is it. This is the pointy end of the race. Your winner's going to come from these 3, I think.
Yeah, some riders have a really good poker face and you cannot tell if they're trying at all. Other riders constantly have a grimace on their face, but that's sort of how they are for the whole of a bike race. So it can be really difficult to tell by someone's facial expressions. For me, when I was racing, I could tell quite well from behind by someone's sort of body language. Perhaps if they're dropping their shoulder or leaning a certain way or sort of wiggling a little bit, that means they're really working hard. So you do learn to sort of read your rivals a bit, but it can be, you know, you can't often tell by the face, because that could be how she rides all the time.
Yeah, it's a bit of an art form that in itself, isn't it? You know, just riding past with your mouth closed and stuff like that. I tell you what, these girls are fully committed, and the last 2 laps, only 2 miles left of this race.
Yes.
It's getting pretty exciting here as we come up to this little kicker at the front of the course. They'll drop down here at another big hairpin, and is this going to be one of the places that Joe Tinley is going to try and sneak up the inside and put a gap in there?
Yeah, well, it's Lizzie Bennett working on the front now. Joe Tinley, quick look over her shoulder. Sophie Langford as well, looking back, just seeing what that gap is. Sophie Langford wants this break to work. She's committed really hard to herself. She's done a lot of work. She's consistently been up there in this race, and she's just glued to that wheel. But Joe Tinley now looks like she's making a move.
Yeah, big push on there from Tinley. Bennett's struggling to get back in that wheel, but straight on the back here. So the Langford's not letting Tinley get even a couple of inches on her. But Tinley here, she's really shown how important it is to get up here, get on this podium with this new national series. She wants this win, and this is great to see. There's so much commitment being put in here by the Campanese girls.
Definitely. So this is a new series for women, and they really want to sort of put on a good spectacle here and show that they're worthy of having a separate national circuit series as well. It does attract slightly different types of riders to the national road series, and this racing has been full gas from the off today.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're coming around here. There's just over 1 lap to go. It's going to start getting a little bit tactical now. If I was the Campanese ladies, I would be having one rider on the front drilling it.
Yeah.
They have to make a decision now, because Langford's just too strong. They're not going to get rid of her. They'll have to rely on one of two things: either a drag race to that final corner, or Joe Tinley's going to have to go it alone.
Yeah, exactly. So I would probably put one on the front, working hard, and one sort of saving yourself. Sophie Langford's not letting them have it her own way, and she's making a bit of a move here herself. She's getting herself to the front, taking control of this group.
That slid right into the hands of Joe Tinley there. So if you were Tinley, you'd probably be quite happy with that right now.
Yes,
Just sit
yes.
there, let her push on a little bit. The gap's not too bad at the back, probably about 5 to 7 seconds there to the little group chasing behind. Tinley's still got her teammate there. Are they going to leave Langford out there to dry, hang her out there to dry now?
Yeah, well, she's working hard, so you may as well let her do that work if she wants to. But at the moment, Joe Tinley's thinking, this perhaps isn't fast enough. I want to get back in control myself. We've got such a technical course here, these wet, greasy corners, drains on the corners as well, the different white lines. Is safer often being at the front, leading from the front. It seems like it's harder work, but that was the final corner there. Joe Tinley getting herself to the front for that. Perhaps it's a little practice for next lap.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to think about that. You know, you've got to make sure you know the line you can take and how fast you can take that corner. This is where it's going to start getting really tactical. And see Bennett at the back, she's really struggling, but you know, she's still in the line as Langford comes to the front and is just so willing to push this on. She knows first, second or third, if she keeps the pressure on here, it's in the bag, that podium position. But where's she going to be on that podium? Yeah,
exactly. She's working very hard here. She's not scared of any reputation. She's determined to make this break succeed. She's consistently been up there with these girls, and now these three are still working together on this last lap as Lizzie Bennett comes to the front with Joe Tinley right on her wheel.
Yeah, Tinley's just manoeuvring herself into the right place there. As you see, Langford takes a bit of a different line through that corner every time. Comes in quite late instead of the traditional, racing line apex to apex, but it looks now like Lizzie Bennett's trying to, set this up for a team leader, Joe Tinley.
Yeah, and the next three girls aren't far behind either, just a couple of seconds back, so they can't afford to play cat and mouse or else they will get caught. They need to keep pushing all the way on this last lap.
And that's been the story of the whole race, and I think we have to give an honourable mention to Jenny Powell from Bianchi Dama. She has been super strong today, and if anything, she's been the rider who's dragged this race back together at every opportunity.
Exactly, she has never given up. She's never said, no, that's it, the race is gone. She is not happy to settle for 4th, 5th or 6th. She's racing hard all the way, and these girls continuing to push on. Sophie Langford, a small gap on this corner here. We're about half a lap to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're coming to this small section of left and right turns. This is where Tinley made her effort in her attack just a few laps ago. Now, that would be a good thing to do, but she maybe just mistimed it, and it looks like Langford's not even allowed them. She's going in there full gas, keeping the pressure on, not letting them get an easy ride. As you can see, the grimaces are all over all these ladies' faces as they now take this big hot dog hairpin, and now they start to wind it up towards the finish.
Yeah, Langford's committing to racing from the front here. She obviously feels this is her best chance of a victory, to lead it out, take control of all these corners and do exactly what she wants to do.
Yeah, Sophie Langford now, she knows that she's not too far to go now, less than half a lap to this finishing line. She knows she needs to keep this group away, but at the same time, she cannot afford to take Joe Tinley in an armchair ride all the way to the finish. So we step into the last sort of 500 metres of this loop now. It's going to be a race into this final corner as they take over the sleeping policeman there at the zebra crossing. As they drop into this final corner, it's going to be really quick, and Bennett's on the wheel. Langford opens it up. Tinley's in 3rd place. She's got the strength to come round. Langford is going to take this. What a ride! What a ride by Sophie Langford! She took it up, Joe. She did not let them get an inch on her. That was impressive. Look at, you can just see how much it means to her.
Yeah, she can't believe she's done it. She was up against it. There was 3 riders from one team in a break with her. She was on her own, the only rider from her team from the start. She consistently made it across when these girls attacked. She led on that last lap. She was determined not to lose that front position, and she's taken the win, and this is her first win at this sort of level. This is the biggest win of her career.
Very, very smart riding there.
Absolutely. She played to her strengths. She knew she wanted to take control on that last lap, wasn't going to risk being on anyone else's wheel around that last corner. And, you know, it was a risky tactic, and it would be easy in that situation to almost be waiting for the other girls to attack. It'd be easy to be thinking that actually they should be the ones doing the work because the other group weren't far behind. But, you know, she took the responsibility herself. She wasn't afraid of reputation. And what a brilliant ride.
No, absolutely. She knew what she had to do. She had to be first in that corner, and it just shows you when they came round there in that last 150 metres, Lizzie Bennett was on the wheel, but she just could not make a single impression on the back, as we see it here. She just takes it up here, 500 metres to go around this big long hairpin, keeps it nice and tight, 100 metres to go, out the saddle, has a look over her shoulder, knows she's got it in the back, and you see the crowd in the back going mental, and there must be our teammates and our support staff going absolutely nuts in the background. A fantastic win for her, especially at this stage in her career.
Yeah, that was brilliant. She can't quite believe she's done it, I don't think. I think she's sort of a little bit stunned, which is brilliant. I love to see a win like that for someone who wasn't expecting it and is just sort of over the moon. And she's just smiling away here, doing a nice sort of easy lap afterwards. Just trying to take it all in, really. You know, a win in a national series race, the first national women's crit series. She's going to take that leader's jersey. It's a 3-round series, so I look forward to seeing her back again.
No, she's in a well-deserved lap of honour, I think. Is you know, Jo Tinley knew she was beaten, I think, today, and you seen it when they crossed the line. She was one of the first people to give her a pat on the back and say, "Nice work, you really, really deserved that today." But Tinley, I think, will be disappointed with that. You know, the Campanese girls had a few cards to play there, and unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, so Jo Tinley consistently attacking, consistently always up there. You know, riding brilliantly, you know, often being away on her own. And I think as the favourite before the race, we probably would have all named Jo Tinley being, you know, the most experienced rider, silver medal at the National Crit Champs last year, riding well in the Tour Series as well. So for Sophie Langford to take this win, you know, it's absolutely spectacular.
It was impressive. She was super strong.
Yes.
I mean, and not being afraid to take on like the more established riders like Jo Tinley. We've been banging on about her the whole race, how experienced she is, but yeah, it was really impressive to see.
Definitely not afraid of reputation, willing to take it on, willing to ride on the front, you know, not trying to get back and sit on a wheel and sort of save herself, willing to put the hard work in on that last lap, which could have been a risky move. You know, she could have had people come past her, but she was like, no, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to hold the front and I'm going to go for this win.
So we're going to go across to Becca Charlton, who's got a race winner.
Talk me through your emotions.
I just couldn't believe it. I thought I was so happy, and then I thought I was going to cry, and then I was like, oh my god, I just couldn't believe it. I knew I had to go into the last corner first, and I was killing myself going into it, and I thought if they come around, at least I've tried hard. But I just went for it, and I could hear my manager screaming for me, and I was like, okay, I'll go.
How confident were you coming in that you could do this today?
I had my doubts also. I really hoped that I could pull something off, but it was quite hard having the Velo Campanese team, because there were 3 of them in the front group and they were working as a team, and then they wouldn't pull through if there was a break, and me and Jo were in a break early on and they would chase us back, and I was like, oh no, because I thought that was a winning move, and then I was kind of tired out, but just kept going and can't believe it.
And you knew that was going to be a big fight with Jo and her team support as well.
Yeah, exactly. Jo is such an amazing rider, and she's podiumed quite a lot in the national series, and I knew either I wanted to be on her wheel or I just had to go in first. So yeah.
We spoke earlier before the race about how much success you've had on the track over the winter, but what does it mean to now come to the fore in the crit season and take a win like that?
Oh my God, it means so much. I mean, I've always wanted to target crits, but I've never been able to because I had exams and just general life. So I'm just absolutely ecstatic and so happy.
And the team as well, they're very happy. I bet you can't wait to get down there and have a bit of a celebration.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think it means a lot for me and the team, so I look forward to that.
Congratulations, that was very, very incredible and emotional to watch. We'll let you get to that podium. Sophie, thank you, and well done once again.
Just shows you how important it is to win one of these races. As she said, she's been targeting these and thinking, I'd really like to win one of them.
Yeah,
boom,
absolutely,
she's got one.
Absolutely. So she's a student at Cardiff University doing molecular biology, and she referenced there how often the exams are in the way. So the Tour Series in May, June, it just really coincides with that sort of exam period of students. So she's obviously over the moon that there's a race a little bit later now in the calendar, and a crit, and she can target that, quite close to home for her as well, being in Bristol. And what a spectacular win. I'm just over the moon for her. She'd worked so hard in that race. She'd never, sort of worried about reputations of other riders. She'd committed to her attacks, to her chasing. She hadn't sat back and thought, oh, it's someone else's job. And then to come off with the win, I'm really, really impressed.
Yeah, and she spoke about how her track background over the winter, that you could see that in that last 150 metres, the kick that she had out of that corner. You had to go round there first, as she knew.
Yes.
And to see a rider of that being showing that maturity for her age, to know that she has to be there, and she knows that she has to be in front of Joe, because giving loads of kudos to Joe there as well in her little interview after the race, and it's really important to realise that this is a big step for her in her career.
Definitely, and it's the first women's circuit series separate from the road series, and it's a great opportunity for the women to sort of showcase that they're worthy of this second series. And we've seen full gas racing from the start, really heavy torrential rain here, not nice at all, and already that's Sophie Langford on the front stringing this group out. So right from the off in this race, she was up there. We saw plenty of attacks from Jo Tinley, but Sophie Langford always sort of taking the initiative to chase when she could and showing how strong she was.
Yeah, she was always in the mixer. Like we said, we spoke about Jo Tinley, endlessly throughout that, because I think we both thought that it was Jo's race was in the bag, but Sophie showed experience above her years by just knowing who she had to follow and knowing how to put herself in the right position, to take that scalp in that last 150 metres, because we've seen the speed she can round that corner.
Yeah.
They didn't even get anywhere near her in that last 100 metres.
I think sometimes it's all sort of keeping it simple in a bike race as well. It's easy to overthink about who else you're up against, who's got teammates, what they're going to do. But she kept it simple. She was like, I need to be first around that last corner. That's the corner there where we saw the crash earlier on, which broke up that breakaway group. But then we saw this group of two getting away. So consistently, those were the two strongest riders, but never quite breaking that elastic until the final 2 laps, really.
Yeah, I think they were potentially a little bit unsure of each other. Sophie obviously having Jo on a little bit of a pedestal, and Jo being a little bit, not who is this young upstart, and who is this, I don't really know much about her, and trying to, size her up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what kind of played into the chasers' hands, potentially.
Yeah, it's hard when you are a favourite coming to a race like this. So Jo Tinley, probably the name that a lot of people have been saying before this race, looking at the start sheet, and that's often the hardest place to be in, because everyone's looking at you to make the race, to make the attacks. Every time you do attack, everyone gets on you because they know how good you are. It's actually often easier to be slightly lesser known name, slightly under the radar, and you get a bit more freedom to do what you want to do. But Sophie Langford, fully deserving of this win today.
Yeah, and you can just see here, this is us coming into this last couple of laps, that Lizzie Bennett tried early on with 3 laps to go to try and break that elastic and get rid of Sophie, but she was all over it straight away.
Yeah, she did. So we saw some really good aggressive racing from the Velo Company's girls throughout the race. So that's why I think I'm so impressed that it actually isn't one of those taking the win at the end, because they had the strength in numbers.
And it's so great to see in the background there the team manager being so ecstatic, and and Sophie mentioning how that support's really, really important, and come on, keep going. And she's like, well, okay, I will.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So I think at that point in a race, you've got those awful conditions and you're racing full gas for an hour, everything hurts. Just having that sort of positive encouragement from the side of the road, knowing that people believe in you, knowing that people are going to be really happy if you get that victory, and it gives you a sort of little perspective that actually this is quite a big deal. I need to commit. I can't give up. I can't let my head go. I can't let myself dip. I need to keep pushing on.
Absolutely, and you've seen today that she's obviously she said that in an interview after the race that she's been eyeing up these races and she's been wanting to become a crit rider.
Yeah,
I think all that time spent in the winter on the track has been it's been so important to that development of her, because she is still just a really young rider, and like you're saying, studying at university.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the track is brilliant for leg speed, brilliant for skills. Obviously, you're not going to be racing outdoors in the rain on the track, but it's the sort of the positioning skills in the bunch. But really, the leg speed and the power that you get from riding on the track. You can see when she came out of that last corner, she got out of the saddle, and then she sat down and she sprinted the last bit seated in her saddle, but with so much leg speed, so much power. No one else could come close to her. The other 2 girls were just sort of watched her win, really. It was a brilliant last lap by her.
Yeah, it was impressive, and as I've said so many times now, she showed the experience beyond her years, and it's great to see a young rider like that gain that confidence at the start of like this new series, because now she'll carry that on, and you think that it would perpetuate more momentum and build that confidence, and I think we're going to see lots of big things from her in the future.
Yeah, so I've always said that winning is a habit. So once you win a bike race, you believe in yourself more and you learn how to win, and suddenly more and more wins come out of one another quite quickly. Often the first win is the hardest one, but once you've started winning, it's harder to stop, and everyone sort of gives you that little bit more respect in the bunch as well. They know to respect you. It can be more difficult because you are closely marked, but I do think once you've got that confidence of winning, it can then become a habit.
It'll be interesting as well in when we move further into this series as well, because there's a lot of riders who are at other races right now, and they're going to come into the fold, you know, in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see when, I'm not going to belittle the win, but when the bigger riders come back and the bigger teams start coming into these the next few series rounds, it's going to be interesting to see how she handles that kind of pressure as well, of being the person who's won that first race and being the leader and going from there.
Definitely. Well, we saw how strong she is, and often when you get bigger name riders at a race, you can get a really hard bike race, and that can actually make it easier if you're stronger. Often when you're a strong rider, a slower race is so much harder to win because you need it to be hard, you need it to be aggressive, you need everyone to be on their knees in order to launch that attack. So actually that could play into her hands if you've got some big riders coming in thinking they can win, making the race hard, and she can be up there with them.
Yep, and it's great to see her on the podium. Here she is, the winner. Just look at that, ecstatic with that one. You can just tell the fact that she's brimming from ear to ear with happiness, and it's so great to see her to experience this, you know, the first big race of the year for her on the Circuit Race Series, and to get that, you know, that win straight off the bat. It's not often that happens very often in these races, because it goes down again to teamwork, and not only teamwork but also having the experience as well. So she's done great.
She has done brilliantly. I really enjoyed watching her race. She raced really aggressively, not afraid of reputations, committing fully to her plan on that last lap, you know, not thinking, oh, I want to be, you know, a wheel back, I don't want to lead this out. She went for it, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that today. We're now going to pass back across to Becca. I hope you enjoyed the coverage today. It's been great here working with Joe. We'll see you again soon.
Well, thank you for joining us for the first ever live streaming and the first ever round of the Women's National HSBC UK Circuit Series. We've had a fantastic day despite the weather here in Bristol, and that superb win today goes to Sophie Langford after that very hard-fought battle. We'll be back live again next time with all the action from Otley for the men's and women's races as I go to the next round of the Circuit Series. In the meantime, you can keep up to date with everything you need to know over on britishcycling.org.uk. And in the meantime, well, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.